The silence in the car was suffocating. You sat with your hand clenched in your lap, trying not to flinch every time Taehyung finger jammed neatly on steering wheel. The black luxury car sped through the countryside road, far from the city lights. Shallowed. The dinner had been painful. You wasn't used to the fake smile, the cold glare, the jabs at your presence by women who once threw themselves at your husband. They all looked at you like you didn't belong, and maybe didn't believe that too. He didn't defend you once. Not when a business executive wife called you that charity case the old chairman forced into his family. Not when another said you look more like a maid than a wife. You turned to him, then breaking the heavy silence. Why didn't you say? You breathe catch in your throat. You blinked hard. Excuse me, he knuckle tightened on his steering wheel. You hurt me. You think that your innocent act fooled me. You were handpicked by my grandfather, and now you are enjoying the ride in my car, wearing designer clothes like you earned them. I never wanted your money or your name. You snapped words to me. I didn't ask for this marriage either, but you stay, he said coldly. Eyes never leave the road. You said yes, didn't you? Your voice cracked because I had nowhere else to go. He gave me a choice when the world had turned into back on me. You had no idea what that's mean, what he meant to me. He scoffed. Don't talk like you scared. You saw an opportunity and took it. The world felt like a knife stabbing into your chest. You looked away, blinking the tear that stunned your lashes. The road ahead was empty, winding through the forest, just green stars and silence, and then suddenly he pulled over. You looked at him confused. What are you doing? He unbuckled his seatbelt, flurry in every sharp line of his face. Get out. What? I said get out of the car. He groaned. I stand the sight of you right now. It's past midnight. This isn't Seoul. This is middle of nowhere. Your voice cracked with a disbelief. You can't be serious. Get out or I will drag you out. You stare at him, heart pounding, shaking hand, fluttering to open the door. You step out. He is creaking against the grain. The wind slapped your skin like ice. And then, without another word, he drove off. Red tail light faded into darkness, leaving you standing alone under the cold moon. For a moment, you couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The sky stretched endless above you, and the empty road ahead seems to swallow your scream as he stripped from your chest. You were alone, and he wasn't coming back. The cold went through your dress like knives. Your heels were no match for the cracked gravel road, and every step sent sharp pain through your knuckles. You hugged your arms to your chest as your breath came out. Visible cough, eyes straightened between the empty. No phone, no light, no one. They had been taken everything except your pride, which was no money, and layer of fear and disbelief. He really left me here. You wasn't even sure which direction led back to Seoul. After what felt like an hour of walking inside, and your legs gave out, you collapsed near the edge of forest, skin scabbed, trembling eyes, mind racing until the darkness shallowed even your thought. You woke up to the warmth, a soft blanket, a smell of something herbal, a small fire cracking nearby. Your lashes flash open only to find a pair of kind, wrinkled eyes watching you. She is awake, the older woman called, stepping away from yours beside. A man entered with a cup of warm water. You were half frozen, dear. We found you lying on the road near down. What's on the earth? What are you doing out there? You tried to speak, but your throat burning. I don't know. You didn't want to tell them, didn't want to say that your husband, the man the world saw as elegant, powerful, and charming, left you like a garbage on the side of the road. Their house was simple but filled with a warmth you hadn't felt in months. A steaming bowl of soup, thick, soft, neat shawl wrapped around your shoulders said more than any word could. You stay with them for days. Helping in the garden, cleaning dishes, laughing faintly. Mrs. Hang's sharp tongue and Mr. Hang's stubbornness about his vegetable. You told them your name, but not your past. You were just wine here, not a forced wife, not a stranger, loveless mansion. Meanwhile, in Seoul, Tim sat in the silent penthouse, staring at the untouched meal his housekeeper had left. The house was colder than usual. Every room in a louder, creaking rocked his knock. It had been 4 days since he left you on the road. He told himself he didn't care that you would find your way back. That wasn't his responsibility. But then came the silence, the footstep down the hallway, no quiet hums in the kitchen, no soft on the study door with tea, even if just emptiness. Just walking into the office on the 5th day, threw the newspaper on his desk. Your wife missing, no public appearance of a week. Source close to the Kim family report tension between the forced couple. Mrs. Kim would remain unknown. You didn't even try to find her, Jimin asked coldly. Then stared at the photo. It was old. From your eyes downstairs, soft smile on your lips. His chest tightened. Terrifying moment. He felt something twist. She's not my problem, he said quietly, but even to his own ear, it sounded like a lie. Back in the countryside, you stood by the window of the Han home, fingering gripping the shawls Mrs. Han had given you. You wasn't sure how long you could stay, but you were sure one thing. Now you didn't miss. You missed the version of yourself that still believed he had a heart. Tim had never been a man of cross. Everything in his life was still controlled. But the moment you left, no moment he left you, nothing made sense anymore. He came home expecting to feel relief. Instead, the silence welcomed him a punishment. The faint scent of perfume still in the hallway. Small cup refused to taste that forbidden the kitchen counter. Your favorite scarf ready, the dinner white blossom draped over the chair you sat on, untouched since the night of your present. The worst part,